SpaceX just went public at a valuation of $1.77 trillion. That makes it worth 15 times more than Boeing. A company that didn't exist until 2002 is now valued at 15 times the company that built the 747 and the Space Shuttle. But the valuation gap is actually the least interesting part of this story, because what SpaceX is doing to Boeing right now is happening across 4 separate fronts. And on every single one of them, Boeing is losing ground faster than the year before. It starts with Starliner. In 2014, NASA handed out 2 contracts to get astronauts to the International Space Station. Boeing got $4.2 billion. SpaceX got $2.6 billion. Both were fixed price, meaning cost overruns come out of the contractor's pocket, not NASA's. SpaceX flew its first crewed mission in 2020. By 2026, Crew Dragon has completed more than 10 crewed missions for NASA, plus additional flights for private astronaut clients. Boeing's Starliner has completed 0 operational crew missions, and it's not like they came close. The program has lost money almost every single year since 2014. By 2024, cumulative losses had passed $2 billion, with Boeing taking a $523 million charge on Starliner in 2024 alone. Then came the moment that changed how everyone talks about this program. In 2024, Boeing finally flew its first crewed Starliner test to the ISS. Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams got to the station, but propulsion issues meant they couldn't safely come home on Starliner. They waited for months. NASA eventually brought Starliner back empty and sent SpaceX's Crew Dragon to pick up the crew. Think about what that actually means for Boeing as a business. NASA, Boeing's own customer, publicly decided that its competitor's spacecraft was safer for human lives than Boeing's own capsule. That is not a routine contract setback. Every future NASA procurement decision gets made against that moment. Every proposal Boeing submits for crew transport now carries the asterisk that NASA once chose SpaceX to clean up a Starliner flight. But the Starliner embarrassment is actually the smallest financial problem SpaceX is creating for Boeing. The launch contracts are where the real damage starts. For decades, United Launch Alliance, the 50-50 joint venture between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, had a near monopoly on U.S. national security space launches. The Department of Defense needed reliable, certified rockets for classified satellites. ULA had the certification, the track record, and the relationships. SpaceX was the outsider trying to get in the door. That's completely reversed now. The Department of Defense's NSSL Phase 3 program covers roughly 54 missions and $13.7 billion in contracts between fiscal years 2025 and 2029. In the most recent fiscal year 2026 assignments, SpaceX received 5 missions worth $714 million. ULA got 2 missions worth $428 million, 5-2. And this is in Lane 2 of Phase 3, the tier reserved for the highest reliability, most sensitive national security payloads. The tier where ULA was supposed to have the strongest competitive position. SpaceX still took the majority. Under Phase 2 of the program from 2022 through 2027, the split ran roughly 60-40 in ULA's favor. Phase 3 flipped that. SpaceX is now projected to take roughly 60% of national security launches over the 2025 to 2034 window, the exact inverse of where ULA started. For Boeing, which owns 50% of ULA, that's a decade-long revenue line running in the wrong direction. The contracts that used to flow to the Boeing-Lockheed partnership are flowing to SpaceX. And because Boeing only owns half of ULA, they capture just 50 cents on every dollar ULA does manage to win. So Starliner cost Boeing billions in development losses, and ULA is losing market share on the launch side. But there's a third front in this that almost nobody covers properly, and it might end up being the biggest one. Boeing is the prime contractor for the SLS core stage, the massive central rocket NASA is using for the Artemis program to return humans to the moon. Boeing has earned roughly $8.9 billion in SLS contracts to date. That makes SLS one of Boeing's most valuable remaining space revenue streams. Here's the problem. SpaceX's Starship, the largest rocket ever built, has been selected by NASA for the Artemis 3 lunar landing mission. Starship is the vehicle that will actually put astronauts on the surface of the moon. So Boeing builds the rocket that gets the crew partway there, and SpaceX builds the one that finishes the job. Now look at the cost difference. SLS runs roughly $4.1 billion per launch. Starship is projected to cost around $90 million per launch at full reusability. That's not a small gap, that is a 45-to-1 cost ratio. NASA is committed to SLS for the initial Artemis flights. But every successful Starship test puts more pressure on that commitment, because at some point, Congress and NASA leadership have to answer a very simple question. Why are we spending $4 billion per launch when there's a vehicle that can do it for $90 million? If you're a Boeing shareholder, that question should worry you more than Starliner. Starliner is a $2 billion embarrassment that's already priced in. SLS is an ongoing revenue stream worth billions more, and it survives only as long as NASA can justify the cost difference. Every Starship flight that goes right makes that justification harder. Aerospace analysts have been raising this scenario for 2 years now, and it is not fringe thinking anymore. If you're following this series, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. It covers a company where SpaceX's impact is even more direct than what's happening to Boeing. All of this would be manageable if Boeing were financially healthy. They're not. Boeing's Q1 2026 revenue came in at $22.2 billion, up 14% year over year. That sounds good, until you see that the company posted a core loss per share of 20 cents and negative free cash flow of $1.45 billion. The commercial airplanes division ran a negative 6.1% operating margin. Debt stands at $47.2 billion. That's down from $54.1 billion, but it's still one of the highest leverage ratios in aerospace and defense. The 53-day machinist strike in late 2024 alone burned through roughly $5.5 billion in cash. And the defense, space and security segment is where all of this really compounds. That division posted $7.6 billion in Q1 2026 revenue, up 21%. But the segment lost $5.4 billion for full year 2024 on fixed-price program charges. And that's not just Starliner. The KC-46 tanker program has accumulated over $7 billion in losses since 2016. The T-7A trainer, the MQ-25 Stingray, and the VC-25B Air Force One replacement have racked up another $2.5 billion in losses combined. Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg has pointed to a record backlog of $695 billion and a real commercial aviation recovery, with 737 production at 42 aircraft per month and FAA clearance to increase to 47. That's all true, and none of it fixes the space problem, because these contracts don't come back. A government agency that moves its crewed transport from Starliner to Crew Dragon or shifts its national security launches from ULA to Falcon 9 does not reverse that decision on a whim. These are decade-long relationships built on demonstrated capability. SpaceX has demonstrated it. Boeing's space division has spent 12 years demonstrating that it cannot deliver on time or on budget. In 2024, SpaceX flew 134 launches. ULA flew 8. Boeing lost $2 billion on a spacecraft that NASA ultimately sent home empty. It's losing national security launch contracts at an accelerating rate, and the one major space revenue stream it still has, the SLS core stage, faces a cost comparison it cannot win once Starship reaches full reusability. The commercial aviation side is recovering. Boeing is not going bankrupt. But the space and defense business that used to be a competitive advantage is turning into a drag. And the company on the other side of every single one of these losses is the same 24-year-old rocket company from El Segundo. The next video covers the satellite industry where the irony cuts even deeper. Click it now.